Well, if this is your first time or if it's your 101st time, we're just glad that you're here. And you have joined us at a perfect time because we're starting a new series. And that new series is called Explained, and it is for anyone who has read the Bible and gotten bored, anybody who reads the Bible and feels confused, anybody who reads the Bible and might be about to close it, or might read the Bible, but you're just not sure exactly where to start. And we're going to talk about the Bible and also from the Bible. But I want to talk about the Bible first because I've had my own experiences with this. I have actually been at each of these points. I've read the Bible and gotten bored. I've read the Bible and felt confused. I've read the Bible and thought this may be the last time and I'm going to close it. Or I've also started to read the Bible and thought I don't exactly know where to start with any of this. So I've been at all of these points, and that's exactly right. I've gotten to the point actually after all of these points or inside of all these points where I started to doubt two things. I was reading the Bible and I began to doubt my ability to read the Bible. So when I would read the Bible, I would stare at the words, I would understand what it was saying, but I wasn't quite sure about if I was doing it the right way or if there was a new way I should be reading it or if I was just missing something. And so I began to doubt the Bible's viability or its ability to be successful in my life or its ability to make any impact in my life. If I wasn't reading it the right way, or if I was messing something up, maybe the Bible wasn't meant for my life. Maybe there were things about the Bible that were true, and I could say yes to, but as I walked around, as I went into the school bus, as I went home, as I went to practices, the Bible wasn't effective in my life. Now, neither of those things were true, but it did get to the point where I actually turned to my youth pastor, and I talked to him about it, and I said, listen, I pray all the time. I love praying. Praying was more than therapeutic to me. It was, to me, the main avenue of my relationship with God. But I said I pray all the time, but I don't enjoy reading the Bible. And that actually felt really horrible saying that. Felt like I was saying something bad, but it was true. I didn't enjoy reading the Bible, and that was confusing for me because I loved reading. I loved reading to this day. I would call it more than a hobby. In fact, there was one time in English class we were supposed to be reading a book. I read part that we were supposed to be reading. I pulled out another book that I was hoping to read and read that one too. So a little bit of dork tendencies in me, but I absolutely love reading. And so when it came to the Bible, when I couldn't find that passion for the Bible, it was confusing to me. In fact, I started asking, am I a real Christian? Or am I missing something in my faith? Am I actually saved? So if you've been in this location before with your faith and with the Bible, you're not alone. In fact, when we look at the Bible tonight and in the Bible, there is a shift we can make that can unlock so much for those of us who read the Bible. And it's important to get a hold of this because the Bible is so foundational and effectual for our faith. If we leave the Bible out of our faith, if we walk away from the Bible and we don't open it up, we are going to miss a large part of our faith. And it's also why we're so blessed in this country and in this time to have the Bible so available to us. So don't close it, don't walk away. If you're confused, that's all right because we're going to look at a passage tonight. In fact, we're going to start in John. And we're going to start right here in the beginning. It's probably a good place to start, right? In the beginning. Now, John's bringing this up in this time, and he's talking about in the beginning because he wants to rewind all the way back. If you read the other Gospels of the stories about Jesus, the accounts of his life, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, they typically start a little bit closer to Jesus' birth or parts of his family members. But John takes it all the way back. He rewinds the tape all the way to in the beginning. And if that sounds familiar, it should. Genesis 1:1 starts that way, in the beginning. And that's exactly where John wants us to start. He's going to start all the way back as one of his closest followers, as the one who saw Jesus and was not just close to him, but was somebody who would actually hug Jesus and like stand next to him all of the time. He's bringing us back to an important part, and he says this, in the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. So all the way back before everything was created, before there was anything, in the very start of all of it was the Word. And this Word, if you read the Old Testament, and that's what John would have done. He was a disciple of Jesus. He would have read the Old Testament because he was a Jew. When he read those scriptures, he knew that the Word was God's power. Everything was created by God's Word. So it was the essence of who God was. And it was with God, and that Word was God. So this is God's power. Everything's created by it. It's not just the words coming out of his mouth, but it's the essence of God. So let me say it like this. The Word reflected and represented God. Now hold on, because if anything right now, thus far we have proven that the Bible is confusing, and maybe you don't have a great grip on it. But the Word reflected and represented God. And John goes on a few verses later, and he clears it up by saying this: the Word, which was in the beginning, which was with God and was God, became flesh and dwelt among us. And so flesh is really just the body. It took on a body just like us. And if you know who John is hinting at, who John is beginning to nod towards, you're on the right track. The Word took on flesh and dwelt among us. And this is more than just lived. Dwell is kind of like a tent for them, tabernacle for them, somebody who set up a house. But it's more than just the Word that took on a body lived on the earth. In fact, what it's saying is that the Word that took on flesh, the power of God that took on a body, lived and represented God among people. We have seen His glory. Now we get a His glory, the glory of the one and only Son. And if you haven't caught up yet, that's Jesus, who came from the Father full of grace and truth. We saw His glory. This wasn't just an idea. It wasn't just a metaphor. This wasn't just some ghost or spirit. This was God in the flesh. This was God in a body, walking around and dwelling among His people. So, Jesus is the Word who reveals God to us. In the beginning was the Word, the power of God. Then that power took on a body, came to earth, and revealed God to us. So when people saw Jesus walking around, when Jesus talked to people and they listened to Him, when Jesus did things like chores, when Jesus walked around and worked as an adult, when Jesus was in boats, they saw the power of God in Him. They saw His glory. Not an idea, not something I felt inside, but the actual representation of who God was. Now that's all great, but maybe that's a bummer for you and me, right? Because we weren't born when Jesus was walking around. So we miss out, right? Absolutely not. In fact, the poems, journals, histories, stories, letters, and accounts that make up the Bible, because that's what it is. It's not just one book. It's poems, journals, histories, stories, letters, and accounts that make up the Bible, all point to Jesus. This is where the Bible comes into focus. This is where this collection of all these types of pieces of literature come into collection, because they're about Jesus. Now, if you spend any time around the Old Testament, that'd be a big question, because we'd be saying things like, well, where does Jonah fit into Jesus? Where does Isaiah fit into Jesus? Where does Genesis point towards Jesus? They're all about Him because the Old Testament pointed towards somebody who would save us from ourselves and from everything else. And the New Testament describes and points back to Jesus. And so the Bible is focused, is centered on who Jesus was and who He is and what He's doing. All of these point to Jesus. And so, the point of the Bible, the point of the collection of letters, accounts, poems, all of that about Jesus is to know God better. The point of reading the Bible, the point of diving into the Bible, the point of studying the Bible is to know God better. So why all the fuss about Jesus? Well, Hebrews said it best. The writer of Hebrews would say this: long ago God spoke many times and in many ways to our ancestors, Israel, through many prophets, Isaiah, Elijah, Jonah, Adam, through the prophets. And now in these final days, the days that you and I live in, the church days, the ones that are called out by Jesus, He has spoken to us through His Son. So Jesus is a perfect representation of God, and that's why the Bible writes all about Him. So if you read the Bible and you find Jesus there, it's a description of who God is and what He's done, and the mission that God put His Word on this planet for. So this leads us to a question: why are you reading the Bible? Why are you reading the Bible? If you're reading it as a weapon, then you'll find things in there that you can beat other people with, that you can win with. If you're reading it as a textbook, you'll find facts and you'll find ways to support your position and build upon that. Sometimes people read the Bible and maybe you're reading it as a cup of coffee. It feels warm, it feels good, it gets me started for the day, but it wears off eventually. Why and maybe how are you reading the Bible? The Bible is God revealing Himself to us and describing from the Old Testament to the New who Jesus is and what He's doing. And if you read it as God revealing Himself to you, you'll find him. Now, last thing, if you begin to read the Bible, what you will absolutely find is you have more questions. In fact, it'll feel like maybe less was explained to you than you need explained to you. And so what we would do is encourage you to do this. Don't park your brain at the door. If you are a rational person, you read the Bible, things will get confusing. But this is what you should do instead of walking away from it. Ask your questions. If you read the Bible, really read it, you'll have questions. You should ask them. 2, you should express your doubts. I've been reading the Bible for a long time, and there's a few times when I read the Bible I go, how did that happen? What really went on there? Raise objections. There's times you read the Bible and it seems like it doesn't fit with reality. It seems like maybe that's not fair to people. Maybe that's not really feeling like when I read the Bible, that's where the direction of this world is going. Raise your objections and say what you're thinking. Say what you're thinking. If you're reading the Bible and you've got a thought, say it. If you're the journaling type, journal it. You can't, 1, break Jesus or the Bible. You can't break Jesus or the Bible. And 2, Jesus says anyone who asks will receive. Anyone who knocks will find him there, standing and waiting to open the door. So, as you head to your groups, as you have a conversation about what the Bible says, what it is, maybe Hebrews or John, ask your questions, express your doubts, raise your objections, and say what you're thinking. Because the Bible is all about getting to know God better. Thanks for joining me, guys. I'll see you next time.